Hello there, you're watching All 24 News live from Algiers. These are today's top stories. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman delivers the speech of President Tebboune in Azerbaijan during the summit meeting of the contact group of the non-aligned movement on recovery from COVID-19. Also coming up, Zionist forces kill a 15-year-old boy in Palestine. Also ahead in our news, Moroccan human rights activists start taking legal action against the NSO company in the United States based on a complaint from the American internet giant Meta. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov meet on Thursday for the first time since the war in Ukraine began more than a year ago. Hello again and welcome to the program. First off in our news, the non-aligned movement contact group held a summit-level meeting in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, to discuss the world's recovery from COVID-19 and ways to remove its repercussions. The meeting was attended by the Prime Minister, Mr. Ayman bin Abdurrahman, as the representative of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. In his opening speech at the summit of the non-aligned movement contact group, the Algerian premier said that this difficult global circumstance that the world is facing imposes on countries to intensify their collective efforts to resolve the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic.
These difficult circumstances demand more collective efforts from us to accelerate the post-pandemic recovery process. We have insisted that the COVID-19 pandemic presents unprecedented challenges at all levels, and this is what the world is currently going through. We have gathered in this very delicate international context. We are gathered in this very delicate international context, which is no less serious than that experienced at the start of the health crisis, in particular that of the food and energy crisis.
President Tebboune reminded of Algeria's contribution to helping brotherly and friendly countries affected by the health crisis, and also pleaded for the consecration of the principle of equality in the distribution of vaccines, especially for the benefit of developing countries.
Algeria has never ceased to lend a hand to brotherly and friendly countries affected by health crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and to advocate internationally since the beginning of the crisis in favor of the establishment of principle of equal access of countries to vaccines, in particular to the benefit of developing countries, regardless of their economic level and technological development, in order to enable them to enjoy their right to adequate and essential healthcare and to achieve the sustainable development goals.
The Algerian president called on international financial institutions to alleviate the financial stranglehold on developing countries by easing their debt burden and accompanying their national policies.
In addition to its financial contribution to the United Nations Fund for the response to COVID-19, my country has called on the international financial institutions to loosen the grip on developing countries by adopting a series of initiatives which provide, among others, that debt reduction and support for the post-COVID-19 national policies.
President Tebboune also affirmed Algeria's firm adherence to the principles and goals of the non-aligned movement, calling for the necessity of renewing agreement with the movement and redoubling efforts to activate its role in restoring balance to international relations.
I call on all member countries to renew their commitment to the movement and to redouble their efforts to revitalize their role in rebalancing international relations, marked by new challenges and issues.
To a different story now, the Secretary General of the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Mr. Amar Belani, has discussed on Thursday in Algiers with the Portuguese Secretary of State for International Trade and Foreign Investment, Mr. Bernardo Ivo Cruz, who's on a working visit to Algeria. Both parties expressed their great satisfaction in regards to the positions of Algeria and Portugal vis-à-vis several international and regional issues of common interest, in particular the two countries' keenness to promoting the culture of peace and of dialogue in the Mediterranean area and the whole world. And in a different development, the G20 foreign ministers meeting failed to adopt a joint statement for the second time, according to the Indian foreign minister. This follows the failure of the finance ministers to adopt a joint statement. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov blamed the West for the lack of consensus and announced that the G20 would not issue a joint statement at the end of its ministerial meeting. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met on Thursday for the first time since the war in Ukraine began more than a year ago. Blinken and Lavrov's meeting comes amid some of the most heightened tensions between Washington and Moscow in decades. Here's Nabil Khazini with more.
They both headed to the hall of the G20 summit without the intention to hold a meeting. But the current situation made the unexpected encounter happen. Sergei Lavrov and Antony Blinken met and talked for the first time since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. It was a 10-minute chat in which the U.S. Secretary of State told his Russian counterpart to end the war.
I spoke briefly with Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov on the margins of our G20 meeting today. I urged Russia to reverse its irresponsible decision and return to implementing the New START Treaty, which places verifiable limits on the nuclear arsenals of the United States and the Russian Federation.
A demand seen unachievable by the Russian top diplomat. Earlier, Sergei Lavrov said that Ukraine is being encouraged to continue the conflict with Russia.
We publicly said not once that we never refuse serious proposals made from a sincere desire to find a political decision. I will remind once again that while we are being called for talks, I don't remember that someone of Western colleagues from a number of other countries urged Ukraine for talks. Probably there is truth in this, because Ukraine is being encouraged for continuation of the war.
The top diplomats' meeting of the Group of 20 ended on Thursday in New Delhi without a consensus on the Ukraine conflict. The failure of foreign ministers to agree on a joint statement showed that differences over the war have hardened over the past year.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Thursday accused the West of shamelessly burying the Black Sea Grain Initiative that facilitates the export of Ukraine's agricultural products from its southern ports, the RIA Novosti news agency reported. While remaining in the agreement, Russia has repeatedly railed against the West's approach to the deal struck last July, saying countries that have imposed sanctions on Moscow are not doing enough to ease restrictions on Russia's own exports, in particular fertilizers. The Russian President Vladimir Putin said a Ukrainian sabotage group had knowingly fired at civilians on Thursday in what he called an act of terrorists on Russian territory close to the border. Russian news agencies reported earlier that a group of Ukrainian saboteurs had taken hostages in the Bryansk region, while the regional governor said one person had been killed. Ukrainian officials denied responsibility. The alleged incursion came just days after Putin ordered the Federal Security Service to tighten controls on Russia's border with Ukraine.
They infiltrated the border territory and opened fire on civilians. They saw there were civilians and children sitting there, an ordinary Niva, and opened fire on them.
To Palestine now, where the Zionist forces have killed a 15-year-old boy. Two others were wounded, one of them in a critical condition, by the bullets fired by the occupation forces on Thursday evening in the town of Azun, east of Kalkalia. Abdelhamid Dbeiba, the head of the National Unity Government, has urged the Secretary General of the United Nations General Assembly, Antonio Guterres, to provide technical assistance to implement the electoral process and end the existing division in Libya. He renewed his country's commitment to working with the United Nations to face the challenges facing Libya. Dbeiba called for the United Nations to provide technical assistance, study the necessary insurance for the implementation of this election, send international observers, and help train local ones.
We call on the United Nations to provide technical assistance, study the necessary insurance for the implementation of this election, send international observers, and help train local observers. We also look forward to sending a team to assess the special needs of these elections and coordinate with the government and the High National Election Commission in order to ensure the success of this important national election.
To a different story now, Moroccan human rights activists are taking legal action against the NSO company in the United States based on a complaint from the American internet giant Meta. The activists are claiming to be victims of the Pegasus spy application developed by the Zionist company. This will drag al-Makhzen regime to courts, as it was involved in an unethical spying operation on opposition, including personalities, jurists, and officials. Here's Hassan Burkan.
The Moroccan regime is once again facing international scrutiny for its actions, as human rights activists announced their participation in a trial targeting the Zionist NSO company that developed the Pegasus espionage program.
We have previously received official messages from WhatsApp, which is owned by the Meta Group, informing us that our mobile phones have been subjected to criminal hacking from the Pegasus application through WhatsApp. We decided to join the case brought by the Meta company against the Zionist company in the San Francisco courts in the United States.
Moroccan activists have announced the formation of a coalition of Moroccan Pegasus victims. The coalition is based on the decision of Meta to prosecute the Zionist company after the approval of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Pegasus was used to suppress human rights activists, political opponents, journalists, and lawyers. These practices must stop immediately. It goes without saying that we must seize the opportunity of this trial in the United States to achieve justice.
The members of the Moroccan coalition are part of the opposition to the Moroccan regime, exposing the regime's unethical actions. The use of the Pegasus program to hack the phones of journalists, politicians, and human rights activists was denied by the Moroccan government. But this coalition's legal action proves otherwise. Amnesty International revealed in the summer of 2021 that al-Makhzen regime used the Pegasus software to harvest data from the phones of the Moroccan and foreign journalists, politicians, and human rights activists.
The Sonatrach Group has saved more than 30 million euros by using locally produced mechanical spare parts, according to Nasruddin Fatouhi, the Vice President and General Manager of the Sonatrach Group. The high level of production of spare parts by national public and private companies has contributed to the development of the national economy by reducing imports of these parts. Fatouhi expressed pride in the level reached by national institutions in controlling the quality of the products.
Sonatrach Group was able to save more than 30 million euros last year as a result of the use of national product of mechanical spare parts. The Sonatrach Group is proud today of the level reached by national institutions in controlling the quality of product and its quality in the field of manufacturing spare parts that the group needs.
And in related news, Sonatrach Group aims to reduce its imports of goods and services by encouraging local productive institutions through local handling and giving them an opportunity to provide the complex with its various needs within the framework of industrial and service handling. Here's Marwa Belaywer.
Algerian giant Sonatrach complex leads the steps to rationalizing the important spare parts expenditures through the reliance on local product. This step saved the complex 30 million euros, relying only on locally manufactured spare parts and with high integration rates. Hamza is a commercial manager for an establishment that produces spare parts. He is participating in the third edition of Industry Days activities organized by Sonatrach Group in Skikda province. The commercial manager considers his presence as an opportunity to display and market the establishment's products.
هي على كل حال الخبرات لازم نكونوا.
It is the experience that needs to be available. We are certified, and we have a developed strategy of work as well as important capacities. We will try to improve production. We thank Sonatrach for trusting us, and we wish that it will trust us again, since we are going to prove that we have all the capacities.
With a full assurance to public and private mechanical products, since it is controlling over the quality, Sonatrach Group aspires to raise the previous number during 2023.
الشركة الأولى في الجزائر هي لا سوناتراك.
Sonatrach is the first company in Algeria to trust local products. They offered us the opportunity to show off our skills.
وأعطونا فرصة.
Algerian Sonatrach included a number of contracts with public and private companies to manufacture various local spare parts in many fields, such as electrical and gas industries, as well as manufacturing turbines blades that Sonatrach imported from many foreign countries.
Well, that's it for today's news. For more, you can always visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the English team, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.